Hi everybody, how are you going? Check me out with this super whizzy clear picture. Oh, now I'm a bit tired this morning. We got back close to midnight last night from my first off-grid talk here in England, which was super fun in a random little town of Chelsea, which is actually a hotbed of alternative living in Oxfordshire. And yeah, 30 people rocked up, amazing, beautiful souls, and we just spent an amazing night together. Where I shared my story of going off-grid, moving from London to a year in New Zealand. And we did a Q&A and Tim joined us. And it was a super cool night. So if you were there, thank you for coming. It was really awesome. But hopefully I make sense this morning because I'm quite tired. So today I wanted to talk a little bit more about my Defiant Child video. Even as I was recording that video, questions were popping into my head and I had to resist answering them there and then on the video while I was actually recording it, because it's just such a juicy topic with so many little rabbit holes to burrow down. And I was pretty tempted, but I kind of thought, they're my questions. Maybe other people don't have the same questions. So instead I thought I'd ask my Patreons to send me questions that I could then answer on a follow-up video. So that's what this is all about. Before I press on as well, I wanted to show you a new thing. So you might know that I'm part of the Channel Mum team, which is a group of vloggers, mostly based here in the UK. And this week I've had 2 or 3 messages from people saying, how do I find other really cool vloggers who are talking about this kind of parenting stuff? So I wanted to show you the Channel Mum. Or is that clear? I don't know if that's... Can I do that? Hold on. Bear with me. I didn't prepare this earlier. Oh, my phone's just gone off. Okay, cool. So this is the Channel Mum website. It's channelmum.com. I've linked to it below. And it's super cool. There's a chat function. I really love it because they've really got a big focus on things like mental health and supporting mums with anxiety or PND. So you can go onto the chat function. You can, there's a big forum there. My favorite bit is, there's channels, so you can find channels, and there's parent support in here. That's all the stuff you can talk about, separation anxiety with your baby, special needs, your own mental health stuff. But then this is a bit that I particularly wanted to show you, where you can find other Channel Mum creators. And I thought I'd just point out some of my favorite ones on here. I mean, they're all brilliant. I love them all. And with, watching vloggers and stuff, it's very much, everybody has very different, distinct, things that they love. But some of the ones that I know do a particular beautiful, respectful, attachment style parenting, I thought I'd point them out to you. So there's JK and Charlie. Charlie is a super beautiful breastfeeding, co-sleeping mama who is really trying to raise awareness of these really gentle ways of being a mama to your child. So I really love JK and Charlie. I love all of these guys. Kerry Conway, I just think they're all brilliant. Lisa Lum, she's a radical. All of these guys are totally lovely, but these are some, there's me. And then there's Meet the Wilds, and Amber and her wife are raising a beautiful little family, and they just take the most gorgeous footage, and they're just a really progressive family. I really enjoy their videos. And then finally, Nomadi Daddy is the Skinner family, and they're super rad. They're converting a bus. They're going to move into the bus and live in the bus with their family, and they're super into just respectful, empathetic, connection-based parenting. So they're some of my favorite Channel Mum, even though it's hard to say who are my favorites. So for those of you who are wondering how to find other beautiful, living a beautiful way with their kids, those are some of my faves from the Channel Mum parenting book on YouTube. Even though some people, I'm just moving to a better connection. I thought I had a rad connection there. So much in the Wi-Fi, eh? I'm going to come in this room. This is way better in here. Okay, cool. Bear with me, guys. Let's try this. How's that? That's pretty good, eh? Okay, cool. With no further waffle, let me get on to some of the questions. So yeah, yesterday's video raised quite a lot of discussion. Maybe it was one of my most kind of videos that stirred people up and made people want to get in touch with me and ask me questions. So we've had some amazing discussion over on Patreon. And once a month, I do one of these videos where so I'm kind of moving into this where I do a parenting video, and then that week I do a Patreon live. So a live stream like this where I discuss with Patreon some of their questions about that particular parenting video. And if you want to get on board with that on a regular basis, you can head over to Patreon and join the $3 tier and be a part of that month by month. But this is kind of a one-off where I thought I'd just show a whole bunch of you what this sort of thing is like and see if it is up your alley. Might not be. So first of all, I thought I'd reiterate what I think is the most transformative part of living your life with a child that is slightly defiant or much defiant. Now, defiant isn't really the best word. It's like a terrible word in so many ways. In fact, I can't really think of one word that would really cover what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you have a kid who's just incredibly willful. They've got a fire in their belly. They want to go their own way. They find it really challenging to listen to other people's guidance or wisdom when they've got something in their head. They just want to stick to it. And if they're not able to do that, it might result in some explosiveness. And it can be many times a day sometimes, and it can be really, really super exhausting and a real challenge for parents. And so that's like quite a big description. So instead, I'm just going to use the word defiant, and hopefully you know from here on in that that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. And often I think these beautiful, willful, fiery spirits bring so much else to our life too. You know, they are the ones that add this amazing spark and excitement and joy and playfulness. They always want to play or want to make jokes, you know, so they bring all this other stuff with them, along with the challenge of, oh, you're really not just gonna cruise along with this decision, are you? So first want to acknowledge that, but then back to these starting points, because I think this is basically the foundation of everything, the foundation of living your life with your defiant child. And I think everything I'm going to say after this only really works if you start from this point that I'm going to describe. And that is the perspective, two perspectives. One, that your child is just trying their best. They're just trying their best. Every day they wake up and they just want to try their best, be the best version of themselves. That is a human instinct, is to try your best and to try and be a good person and love and you know, live a good life. I really believe that is a natural thing that we are born to. And what can happen is that we get really under-resourced, or we are disempowered, or we experience some trauma or some stress or anxiety that doesn't allow this best to be experienced as best by other people, and at which time people start labeling the child by they're a bit difficult or a bit defiant or, you know, putting labels on the kid. But I really think even if a kid is expressing this sort of defiance, I think we need to really look at them with these eyes of, I understand that you are just trying your best. You're just trying your best. So really look at them with the good intention, rather than looking at them like, you make my life so difficult, which really has the opposite effect. I think it can be a kinesthetic, is that even a word? Like a sort of have a chemical reaction to particularly the sensitive and or willful child. I think often they're very similar, sensitive children and willful children. When they experience from us that kind of like, they feel it. Oh, they feel it. Even if we think we're keeping it under wraps, they hear it and they sense it. So I think really trying to get into the space, looking at your kids, they're trying their best. So that's the number one thing. And then the number two thing is that all behavior is an expression of a need, whatever the behavior is. something is going down that they are needing to express. It might be an urge or a physical need or a much more general need. Like there's lots of needs, not just like the ones in the little hierarchy, thanks to that lovely man Maslow. Yeah, so for more on that, Robin Grill is really good on this, and he's got a book coming out roundabout now about inner child, and in that he goes deeply in to all the different needs at all the different ages. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That's one of Robin Grill's upcoming books. Yeah, so everything that a child is saying or doing, they're expressing something going on deep within them. And I think those two starting points are the healthiest place to be as a parent when you're approaching your kid. That's number one. Okay, on to our first question. So somebody wanted some specific examples of how these scenarios of defiance might work out. And so I sort of thought I'd give you 3 examples. So number one, when I hold a boundary. So a good example of this is say Ramon, my child might want to do something, and it's like it might be a sleepover. And usually, if they want to do a sleepover, we work really hard to make it happen. But obviously, it depends on other people. So we can't always make them happen. And this was a recent one. I said, can't actually happen tonight, and she really didn't like that decision. She was mad about it, furious, it would have, if she could have used that fire to make it happen, she would have. She was just like, rah, and like, ooh. And so I really had to hold that boundary, because it was actually, I didn't have a choice. I couldn't make that sleepover happen. And I just had to hold that boundary. And I just kept holding it and holding her and making space for her to feel everything she was feeling. And she was saying stuff and I just had to help her not hurt anyone or break anything, and just hold space for her. And after half an hour, she then came down and was like, when can I have my next sleepover? So not hold. Sometimes the desire is to not have that experience, to just try and do anything you can to even lie or manipulate or whatever, or just stop it, stop that nonsense. I couldn't make it happen. But if we've got full cups, we're much more able to hold the space for our kid while they hit up against our boundary and are really mad about it. They're allowed to be mad about it. Oh my gosh, they're people, they can be mad, and we can just hold it. This is me holding a wall, a kind of bouncy wall, maybe it's made out of jelly. It's kind of like that, I'm just holding that soft boundary and letting her express everything she needs. So that's when I hold a boundary. But more often than not, what happens is that we negotiate. And so I'll lay down a boundary and she'll be like, no, I hate that boundary. So a recent one is that I've got comments. That's so cool. Hi everyone, thanks for your comments. So Ramona wanted to be on the top story here, sitting out of the window, and we're like, that's not safe, don't do it. We were just like, nah, don't do it, let's shut the window. And she was like, well, I climb trees twice this high, which is true, and you don't say that I can hurt myself. And we're like, well, it's different. Like, if you fell from here, you could actually die or be paralyzed because it's concrete. So that's our boundary, really clear. And she's like, no, I hate that boundary, rah, 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 and really kicked up a fuss. And we took some time to think about, is there any way we could feel okay about this? And we took on her, considered everything she wanted to say about that. And, yes, we would rather that she was like, actually, Mum and Dad, I really enjoy sitting out of that window because it fulfills in me a need to be close to nature and to experience the expression of my body autonomy. So could you have a little think about how I might be able to sit out of the window? Doesn't go like that, does it? It's like, and that's just like the way it is, because she really, really wants to be heard at this time in her life. So, we have to just be like, okay, that's how you're choosing to negotiate. And so basically we came up with this thing where she could open a window and she could sit on this side of the window, so that there wasn't any possibility of her getting out of balance and going a bit skew-whiff and ending up out of the window on the floor, which was really our great fear. So, and that's so far working for everybody. So that's an example where other people might not negotiate on that. But my starting point of she's really got an urge somewhere in her and she's really just trying her best has allowed me in that situation to go, okay, is there any way I can give on this and meet this random need or urge without jeopardizing her safety kind of thing. So that's an example of negotiating, which is actually what we would do almost always with this sort of defiance thing. We like to negotiate. We think it's a really important skill, even if sometimes at the moment it's not presenting exactly as we would like it to. And then when I let it go, so sometimes I'll be like, hey, I think you're really hungry. We really need to eat our dinner now, so we're gonna eat some dinner, and I'll put the dinner out, and she'll be like, no, don't want it. Sorry. And that's an example where, again, other parents might negotiate or hold a boundary, like you've got to eat, or if you eat this, then I'll give you that, or if you just eat this little bit. But, when it comes to food, we are really, really just like, you can do what you want with food. Like, we're not going to make you eat anything. And I would say there's any parenting area that I think it has really worked, it's been in this food area. In fact, I'm gonna do a whole video about it because I've been thinking about it lately. Like, we were at this event last night, and mum and dad had the girls here, and they made them dinner, and mum and dad were like, oh, they ate so well. They just ate all of their dinner and they had seconds. And I was like, it's probably because it was delicious. And she was like, oh yeah, it was. And I was like, so of course they're gonna eat it. It was just like a non-thing to me. And if they don't eat it, if Ramona's like, I'm not going to eat it, then I'm just like, okay, and actually I don't hold a boundary. I just let that kind of like just be, and then later I might cut her up an apple and cheese or something, and I actually feel totally fine doing that. That's a whole other video, but an example of where they're completely fine to just not be guided by us at all. So those are just 3 examples of that sort of like defiance-y sort of scenarios, how they might play out in our family. And this is a great question that came up 2 or 3 times. When do I stick to my limit or embrace the urge and autonomy? And this is a really tricky one, because I believe that we are given the gift of firmly knowing our own boundaries, and we're born with the sense of like, okay, that's not okay with me, this is okay with me. But in our childhood, we're so utterly pulled apart from our boundaries, because we're made to do certain things like eat this, even though we really don't want to eat it, and maybe we're even feeling sick, but we're forced to eat it. That over the course of our childhood, our connection to our innate sense of boundaries is totally severed. So then we end up as adults and parents who are like, I actually don't know where my parameters are, and we can get into some really toxic situations because we're so removed from it. Yeah, so we're going to get to sibling arguments. Yes, so it'd be interesting to hear what you think about that, because I really think we have it as children, and that's half of what this urges and needs and defiance is about, is children trying to uphold their own boundaries. And I think we need to be really careful that we don't do to our children what has been done to us. So I really think that getting in touch with our own instincts around our boundaries is really just a practice, and basically we can get to know them, we can get to grips with them more just by doing some self-reflection. So journaling, I highly recommend journaling. Like, if you have a difficult situation, or you think that you weren't really committed to your own boundaries enough to reflect on it, write it down. Maybe write down scenarios that come up in your family a lot, and say, how do I feel when this happens? How do I feel when that happens? Check in with your body. Sometimes your body gives you a signal. Sometimes if they want to stay longer at the park, for example, you can take a few breaths and be like, okay, what I'm sensing is this urgency to leave because I want to get home. Why do I want to go home? And then as you're having this discussion in your body, like your tummy might start to clench, and it might be like, oh, that's because I've really got a very urgent job I've got to do at home. And then it's like, okay, that's clear. My boundary here is we do have to leave now, actually. We've just got to leave. And often I feel that when you're really clear in your head about what your boundaries are, what the parameters are, and if you're honoring of that, it goes far more easier. And I really say this is a practice because I had quite a good number of years when the girls were really little, where I was really trying to figure it out, and I would get into some pickles really, where we'd end up at the park for like 3 hours, and I'd be like, kind of, not wanting to be there. But I was so wanted to let them be in this place, but I really didn't want to be there myself. But all of that, I look back now and I'm like, there's probably quite a few times where I needed to honor my own boundaries a few more times. But that whole time I was just learning and practicing. And now I feel much, much more able to honor. And it's much more of an instinctual thing where I'm like, that's absolutely okay with me. That's not okay with me. That's, I'm going to take some time thinking about this. Yeah, that's okay with me. I'm just heaps more, like so much more clarity, so much more connected to my instincts around boundaries and things like that. So it's just practice, lots and lots of self-reflection. And the founder of nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg, has this great thing which I use for parenting all of the time. And he spins that phrase on its head. Don't just stand there, do something. He spins it on his head and he says, don't just do something, stand there. And it's this idea that it applies to heaps of different parenting things. But when it comes to boundaries, not that often do we have to like jump in and enforce something or react to something or say something or blah, 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 or coach. Sometimes it's better actually just to sort of like take some breaths and have a little bit of a think. And, and say, it's okay to say to your kid, I have to have a good think about that. And not do, maybe what quite a few of our parents did, which was that I'm going to have a think about that and then not come back to it. But to really say, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes, just going to be still, just going to see how this is going with me, see how it feels, and just not constantly respond and react. Yeah, so that's a little bit about this. But also this other thing, if we're not taking the behavior personally, we will be much more able to connect with our boundary and our instinct on something. So let me say that again. If we're not taking the behavior personally, we'll be much more able to connect with our boundary. And I think this is half of the problem when it comes to our kids' raginess or defiance or whatever, or just parenting in general, is that we take everything so personally instead of going, this behavior is an expression of a need. How can I respond to that very objectively and, without this emotional entanglement? Instead, it's like, they're just doing this to piss me off, or I must be a really bad parent for my kid to be doing this, or, that kind of thing. We take it so personally, and that really thwarts our ability to connect with our boundary. Because we just think, they're taking a mick. They're showing me no respect. I'm going to show them no respect. Right, we're leaving right away. Or, no, you cannot do that because you're disrespecting me. Yeah, taking it personally is the thing I think that results in the most detachment from our instincts and our parameters and our boundaries. So there's that. And then just quickly, because this is all coming up as I'm, that whole thing. Just one more go. And this comes up for me because this was the one when the kids were little. So we'd go to the park and they'd want just one more go. And I'd always feel like if I just give them one more go, then they're going to want one more go and one more go. And after a little while, after a conversation with a friend, we were like, actually, I think it's okay to just have one more go. I'm going to see how that feels. And now Tim and I have a policy where if we're at the park and they want one more go and that ends up in 3 more goes, we're kind of okay with it unless we really do need to go. And actually life is so much more easier. Like we might spend 3 more minutes at the park negotiating the end of the park, like, oh, can we leave at 12:07 or something? And it might feel like, oh, I'm giving in if I give them 3 more minutes at the park. But if we can let go of that personal attachment, if we can just let it go, we're then free to go, sure, you can have 3 more minutes. That's absolutely fine. And so often then, after 3 more minutes, we can all leave the park absolutely smoothly and harmoniously. So yeah, that little thing. So I don't think it's a slippery slope, basically, giving in or negotiating or, working towards their timeframes or whatever. Okay, how am I going for time? I'm going on and on and on and on, talking my head off. Okay, so a big one, sibling fighting. Now, I think this is a really tough one, and I'll tell you why. Because I have a theory that kids are born to be quite physical with each other. A lot of kids still have this latent urge to rough and tumble, to nip and scrap, and kind of work out pecking orders and work out where they are in the system physically. That's their urge. It's like a true, actual urge. And like 1,000 years ago, maybe not 1,000, maybe like hundreds of thousands of years ago, it would have been widely accepted by society. And I think it still is possibly in some societies, widely accepted that that's absolutely normal. That's how children find their way in the world. They kind of peck and nip and scrabble around, and then they grow up and that urge leaves them. They don't become fighters or scrabblers as grown-ups. It leaves them and they can move on. And I think that's really real. But obviously we don't live in a society where that's okay. It's totally not okay to scrap and fight and work things out and with your punches or fists or wrestling or whatever. So I think that's a really tricky one, because I do think it's a real bit of an urge that children have. So, what do we do? Well, there's research out there that says that if kids hurt each other or do something that is not approved by the parent, but the parent is in the room, kids take that as a kind of approval. So I think this is one where we have to be really clear about the boundary and just consistently honor it. And I think that's really hard if a little bit of you is like, oh, it's kind of a bit normal. But it is one where I think you do have to be quite onto it all of the time. And so just constantly be like, I'm not going to let you hurt. I'm not going to let you hurt. I'm not going to let you hurt. And then just wait for that wave to ride. And I think the more we are able to honor that boundary and give it across truly with our children really clearly and show some real clear guidance on that, I think it will ease. But often there's certain scenarios where that fighting comes up. Like for us, it's nearly always in the car. So we always go into the car with heaps of intention. We have movie on a DVDs, we have lots of breaks just in order to preempt the kind of like squabbling. So I do suggest you do a little bit of a kind of like breakdown of your day and look at where the most intense squabbles kind of come in, and look at how you can have a kind of specific action plan for those moments in your life. Also, we have family meetings as well. So you can have these family meetings where you get together and you say, look, it's absolutely not okay to hurt each other. I'm at my wit's end because I'm constantly having to, wit's end, that's so old school, wit's end, constantly having to help you not fight. So what can we do together? And you might be surprised with some of the ideas that your kids come up, but not only are you just harvesting their ideas, but you're bringing them into the family story, you're bringing them into the narrative about how we don't hurt each other, and we've got to work together to help each other not hurt each other. We're actually due one of those family meetings very soon, actually. So I think that's a really important thing. Hi, can I help you? Are you grabbing something? Then there's another one about just the last question actually is about how to encourage other spouses, or not other spouses, because I don't know how many spouses you've got, maybe your number, but how to encourage spouses to be respectful and how to get on the same page. And I would say just consume heaps of, see you later, darling. I just really encourage you to share lots of information together, to read some books, read articles together, watch videos if that's how your partner learns, really figure out how your partner learns, and then just consume lots of great things together. There's so much info on YouTube. Some of my favorites are, what's his name? Ghetto. Yeah, he's one, Mabor Gatto, I think that's his name, just gone out of my head. He's a great one for YouTube, and there's lots of videos on there. But also there's loads of books that I want to recommend as well that you might start reading together or sparking conversations with in real openness and trust and love. So, and this is a good way to end this video so you can go off and, you know, delve more deeply into some of these topics. So this is my reading list. So How to Talk So Kids Listen. It's an absolute classic, and it's a classic for a reason because it's an awesome, awesome book and I love it. So it's a really good one. How to Talk So Kids Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk, which is a really important part of it. Then there's Playful Parenting by Leonard Cohen. It's a really lovely book, particularly for little ones where the negotiating and the talking and the constantly like family meetings just don't work. And I would say for them, for like rebellious kids, it was 100% about playfulness and entering into your relationship with your kid in a spirit of playfulness and speaking the language of play with them. So with our little ones, we would do that constantly. Anything and everything was a game, and if anything we wanted to get happening, we would do it by using a game. So that's really, really crucial. And then another one is Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves, which is about the journey of getting in touch with our own inner child, and that's by Naomi Aldor, and it's a really powerful book. I absolutely loved it. Then there is Parenting for a Peaceful World by Robin Grill, and also his other book, Heart to Heart Parenting. So good, really practical books that I highly recommend. And he's also got that inner child book coming out. Parenting for a Peaceful World is specifically about how our parenting can result in social justice. And I also recommend anything by Alfie Kohn. He's got heaps of articles online as well if you don't want to devour a whole book. So yeah, they're some of my favorite authors, and feel free to share some of yours in the comments as well. This video is going to be on here. You can connect in with it if you couldn't watch all of it or couldn't start from the beginning. Yeah, and if you want more of these live streams, check out my Patreon page where you can support. For $3 gets you onto the live stream thing where I'll be doing monthly parenting Q&As based on that week's video. So thank you heaps for joining me today. Hopefully I made sense, because I do feel quite tired. I feel like maybe I should just oh yeah, heaps of questions, lots of pleasers. Interesting. Have an amazing day, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Much love to you, and stay radical. Mwah!